Myths are not stories that are untrue. Rather, they are tales that don't fit neatly into the historical record, which serve as a foundation to a culture. 4 times the gods created a new sun, and 4 times they destroyed that sun, and an age came to an end. And so shall our current age, the 5th sun, come to ruin. But the manner of cataclysm is unknown. What is known to the Aztecs, however, is that every 52 years, we must thank the gods by offering them our blood. This tale is brought to you by CuriosityStream, the world's first streaming service dedicated to the lifelong quest to learn, explore, and understand. Check it out for yourself at curiositystream.com/extra credits for a free month. In the void before the universe, the god-goddess of duality created itself. This deity was both male and female, both 2 beings and 1. Next, the god-goddess produced 4 sons: Tezcatlipoca, Xipa-Totec, Quetzalcoatl, and Huitzilopochtli. The latter of the 2 were charged with the creation of the earth, its people, and the other gods. Tezcatlipoca decided he wanted to be the first son. So after the gods created the sun and stepped back to admire their work, he snatched it away, tying it around his waist and rising into the sky. And the other gods just watched and said, well, one of us had to be the sun, so let's see what he can do. And set about making the first people. These were not people as we know them, but giants who roamed the earth eating acorns. However, a mistake had been made. The sun was too small and the people too large. When 13 times 52 years had passed, Quetzalcoatl decided he wanted to be the sun, thinking he could do a better job. So he leapt into the sky with a great stick and knocked Tezcatlipoca out of the firmament. Tezcatlipoca plummeted into the ocean and changed shape. He emerged from the water as a jaguar and ate all of the giants, thus ending the age of the first sun. Quetzalcoatl took his place as the sun. This time, the people were the correct size, but only had pinion nuts to eat, and all was well for another 13 times 52 more years, until Tezcatlipoca, seeking revenge, ran across the sky as a jaguar and kicked the sun. As Quetzalcoatl fell, he became a hurricane, which blew away almost all of the people and their houses. The ones that remained were transformed into monkeys. Then, the god of rain, Tlaloc, moved in to become the 3rd sun. The people in this age ate only river reeds, but this age ended when Quetzalcoatl, still angry at Tezcatlipoca, sent a great rain of fire and burning stones. And it was so hot, the sun itself went up in flames. When the fires at last cooled, the ground was ashen, and the people had been turned into turkeys. Fighting amongst themselves wasn't proving to be very productive, so the gods convened to ask the god of rain's wife to become the 4th sun. But when she did, the people only had wild seeds to eat, and it rained constantly. For years and years it rained, until finally the world was consumed by a great flood. The rivers and lakes rose above the mountaintops, and the people who survived turned into fish. And it rained so hard that the sun itself fell out of the sky. When the rains finally stopped, the earth and sky were both destroyed. But swimming in the waters after the great flood was the earth monster, who wailed and howled for the flesh and hearts of people to eat, devouring anything the gods created. Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca, putting aside their differences, descended in the form of serpents and grabbed hold of her. Quetzalcoatl grabbed her left hand and right foot, and Tezcatlipoca her opposite hand and foot. Together, they pulled her in all 4 directions until she ripped in half at the waist. The spirits took her bottom half and used it to put back the sky, while the other half they turned into the earth. Her skin was used to make the grass and flowers. Her hair they turned into forests. Her eyes were fashioned into pools and springs, and they made mountains from her shoulders and valleys from her nose. So now that the land and sky were put back in place, the spirits were ready to create the people anew. They sent Quetzalcoatl down to the Deadland, where he met the Lord of the Dead and his wife, guarding the bones of the dead. They would allow Quetzalcoatl to take the bones, but only if he could blow into the Lord's conch horn. However, when Quetzalcoatl took the horn, he found it had no holes. The Lord of the Dead had played a trick on him. So Quetzalcoatl called upon worms to drill holes in the shell, and bees to buzz to make the horn sound. When the Lord heard the horn, he allowed Quetzalcoatl to gather the bones. But he played another trick. First, he tasked his helper spirits to dig a grave. Then, he sent a host of quail to startle Quetzalcoatl, who fell in and lost consciousness, scattering all of the bones. The quail then gnawed on the bones until they were destroyed. When Quetzalcoatl awoke, he was distraught at the sight of the destroyed bones. However, he still gathered up the fragments and returned to the land of spirits. Another goddess took them and ground them into powder, which she poured into a jade bowl. Then, Quetzalcoatl shed his own blood into the bowl. Seeing his sacrifice, the other gods followed suit. Then the bones came to life, and the spirits rejoiced. "Born are the people," they cried out. "We bled for them, so they shall bleed for us." But these new people had nothing to eat. Luckily, Quetzalcoatl saw a red ant carrying a kernel. So he turned into a black ant and followed it to where he found maize and other delicious food inside of Food Mountain. Wait, does Food Mountain really exist? Is that a place? Because I would like to buy the first ticket there right now. The gods agreed to split the mountain open and give the spoils to the people, all except the greedy Tlaloc, who stole everything and only gives a little back each year in exchange for spilt blood. But at least the people now had maize, and it kept them strong. Finally, with everything back in its place, the gods set about making a new sun. Tezcatlipoca, a boastful and haughty god, proclaimed he'd become the sun. However, the other gods were skeptical, so they chose another, the humble Nanahautzin, who was weak and covered in sores. Tezcatlipoca walked to the edge of the great pyre, and despite bragging a bunch, and him trying 4 times, he couldn't bring himself to leap into the fire. Nanahautzin then closed his eyes, gathered his courage, and ran forward. He plunged into the fire, and his body burnt up. A blinding flash appeared in the east, and Nanahautzin rose as Tonatiuh, the sun god. Tezcatlipoca was shamed by his cowardice, and finally leapt into the fire as well. But when he rose, there was too much light, so the other gods threw a rabbit at him, which dimmed his light, and he became the moon. Rabbits, the celestial nightlight. But for some reason, Tonatiuh stayed motionless in the sky. So the spirits sent a falcon to ask why he did not move. And he replied, "I demand their blood." When the other spirits heard this, they realized they must sacrifice themselves just as Nanahautzin did. So they slashed their bellies and cut out their hearts, holding them aloft, offering to Tonatiuh, who only then began to move across the sky. Thus began our current age. And just as the gods sacrificed themselves so the sun could move across the sky, so too did the Aztecs believe people must follow the example of spilling blood to thank the gods for their life, their maize, and the sun. So yeah, that corn I brought for tonight, I'm still waiting on my payment for that. Anytime now. Our motto at Extra Credits is because learning matters. So we got really excited when CuriosityStream, with their love for learning, sponsored this tale. Because they have over 2,400 documentaries and nonfiction titles spanning topics from across science, nature, history, and technology. Featuring folks like Jane Goodall, Stephen Hawking, and my personal favorite who I happened to run into in an NYC movie theater one time and totally didn't embarrass myself in front of, Michio Kaku. What up, Next World? And you can get access to all of this geeky goodness for only $2.99 a month. But if you head to curiositystream.com/extra credits right now and use the code extra credits, you can get your first month absolutely free. Oh, and if you happen to see Mr. Kaku, please tell him I'm sorry and I owe him some new popcorn. Legendary thanks to patron Kyle Murgatroyd.